Welcome to Super Jam Podcast. My name's David, and today I've got David Mulqueen with me, lead artist and marketing at Fender. How you doing?
Very well. Glad to be here.
Round of applause. So, David, it's great to have you here, man. And what I was going to start off with by asking is, it's no doubt that you're working probably the dream job for a lot of people in the room, young creatives who might want to work for cool big companies like Fender. Music's our main passion, and the music business and media. And I was going to ask, is it the best job you've ever had?
Yeah, I'd say it's probably the best job I've ever had. I mean, I've been there quite a long time now. I've been at Fender for 15 years, which is way longer than I was ever at anywhere else. It's like music's always been so important to me, and it's a place where I can be surrounded by creative people. I'm surrounded by music every day. It's an inspiring place to work, and I think, you know, being there 15 years and not having wanderlust to go off and do something else, which I'd had previously working in other jobs. I don't think I ever stayed anywhere for longer than 2 years. I'd got bored, and it wasn't good. So once I got there, it was just so fulfilling. Every day's different there. It's such a challenging role. There's some days where I probably pull my hair out there.
Yeah.
Make no mistake about it. But there's other days where it's just I have to pinch myself. Even 15 years later, I still pinch myself, going, "Wow, I get to go and do this for a living every day. It's great."
I was going to ask for people listening who kind of might have heard of sort of the artists and marketing. Do you want to just quickly sum up a little bit what your job's like, sort of what kind of things you get up to day at Fender?
Yeah, sure. I mean, it kind of works in cycles. My primary role is working with artists and integrating them into what we're doing. So whether that's, we call them MPI drops, it's like we release a new series of guitars. To authenticate that series of guitars, we quite often look at partnering with an artist that's relevant for that particular guitar that we're putting out, or that series of guitars. I know they all kind of look the same, right? You see a Telecaster, they all look the same, but they've all got different features that are going on with them, and different artists will look for different features within those guitars. So a lot of the job is working out which artists are going to be the right ones to play these instruments, and they're going to be a great brand ambassador for us to play these instruments, to talk about them, and hopefully inspire other people to pick them up. So that's a lot of it. It could really change that. Like we support artists a lot as well. I don't think it's ever been harder to be an artist. I'm getting into Brexit already, and it's early on, but that was devastating, I think, for a lot of young musicians and bands, or any of the creative industries. Actually, it wasn't a particularly conducive decision to anybody trying to make a living or do something in those fields, but it's important for us, I think, to support artists at every stage of their journey, and that's ultimately what I'm doing. We're working with emerging artists, we're working with established artists, and then we're working all the way up to the guys that are signature artists, the icons, the heroes. But, that's part of the trajectory. Those artists that are emerging and starting out right now, one day they're going to be there too. So
Cool.
It's being with them at every stage.
We're going to talk about some of the famous artists and recent collaborations with like Jack White from the White Stripes, Courtney Barnett, Idols. We're going to come to that in a little minute, so I'm excited. But what do you think is the most common sort of misconception in your job, or things that people think about your job but isn't actually quite right?
That is easy.
Yeah.
I remember the first time my wife came into where I work, and she was just like, "Is this what you do for a living? Like, just surrounded by guitars and just talking to people all day long?" But I mean, there is that, which is great, but there's far more to it. I'd say that's 20% of the job. But there's so much stuff that goes on. It's a lot of preparation. It's a lot of research. It's a lot of building connections and building bridges with people. Building a community in a way, it's no different to like doing that anywhere else. I think building that framework and that support structure is super important. And just being prepared knowing what your audience is and having all of that foundational work is absolutely paramount to being successful at that 20%. That's easy.
To do the fun stuff, yeah. Ah, that's amazing. And I was going to ask a little bit about as well, in your industry, if you had a magic wand, is there anything that you'd want to change about your industry, or maybe like a scandal in the industry, or anything you'd want to do to that you could think could make it even better?
In many ways, I think that's already happening. Like when I started working at Fender, and this isn't just a Fender thing, I think it was just an industry thing and a perception thing, was that the industry celebrated a lot of its legacy, I think, more than looking forward. But I've seen a real change and hopefully been part of that change over the last sort of 10, 15 years there in looking forward. There's programs and that we have in place. I don't know if you know much about Fender Next, but that's a platform that we have for championing emerging artists. It's an annual thing. We've had great success with it. It's about getting behind those artists at that early part of their career. We've had some, like the alumni list is pretty spectacular, really. We've had people like Little Sims, Idols, Fontaines DC, Bieber Doobie, like just endless, really. Like people that we worked with from a really early age, or an early stage in their career. And, you know, with us, it's about platforming. We're fortunate that we've got a big platform. We've got, I think, across all of our social media channels, we've got something like 18 million followers. So that's a pretty wide field for any emerging artist to plug into. So opening that up for them, supporting them with gear, involving them in campaigns as well. I mean, you mentioned Idols earlier on there. We'll get to that, but we've done a campaign with those guys. Or Bieber Doobie, I think the year that she released her first album, we had her involved in the Player Series launch that we had, which is it's the gateway into Fender, instrument. So it was important that we worked with an artist that was representative of playing those instruments, and she was playing those instruments as well. She was out touring, playing Mustangs from that range. So, you know, it's important, I think, to make sure that we're there and we're doing that and we're encouraging, because these people are the future.
Yeah, and
it's not always about the legacy artist, even as important as they are, and they are massively important. You know, people like Jimi Hendrix revolutionized what happened with a guitar. I often think, actually, whenever I listen to him, is the context of that time that he came out. You know, it was everybody's playing their guitars up there and singing, you know, love songs or whatever, and then this guy just came from outer space with this sound that was just melting amplifiers, and it was turned upside down, and it's just like, where did he come from? But there's always people that's, you know, changing and revolutionizing what can be done with the guitar now. It still happens. You know, I hear it all the time. There's always something almost daily that I see just on my feed sometimes, just scrolling. You're like, what are they doing? Like, I've never seen anybody do that before.
Yeah, and it's so cool in the history of the instrument that there's still that. There's going to be someone who, now not the new Jimi Hendrix, but revolutionizes things in a new way.
Absolutely.
Or a different way to come.
Yep.
And it makes me think of the Idol session that was recently on Fender's YouTube that you were involved in setting up and helping with, right?
Yep.
And how they were talking about customizing the guitars and stuff. So I was going to ask a little bit about the Idol session. And maybe first, how did that one come about? How did you arrange that with the band?
So for the new series that we just launched this year, well, literally 2 weeks ago, Player 2 Modified, those instruments are modified versions of Player 2s. One of the things about Fender instruments that's probably different to most other guitar brands is they're extremely customizable. They were designed that way. They're bolt-on bodies. They're not like set necks. So you can change the neck. If you don't like the neck, you can put a different one on there. If you don't like the sound of the pickups, you can put different pickups in there. You can do all of these things to customize it to be able to fit what you're trying to do. I've worked with Idols for about 8 years now. The first time I saw them, they were playing in a room of about 200 or 300 people.
And then just for context, in case people don't know, they headlined the other stage at Glastonbury last year, for example. So they're massive now,
Yeah. So we've been working with those guys a long time. It was a chance meeting that I had with them. they'd actually had all of their instruments stolen.
No way.
Yeah, out of their car. I think
Oh,
they'd done
mate.
a tour in their car. The car got broken into, their guitars were stolen, and they put a call out on it was Facebook or Instagram at the time saying, we've had all our gear nicked, can anybody help?
Yeah.
It was actually a friend of mine in Margate that I think he was having them play, or he just had them play in Margate at the time. And he put me in contact with them, and we got them in. I kind of just built up an immediate rapport with them. They were very like-minded to me. We had a lot to talk about. I just enjoyed their company. Then I went and saw a gig of theirs, and they absolutely melted me. I just thought they were incredible.
Yeah.
So we've been working together ever since then, and we'd worked a lot on guitars. They're one of these bands that are probably shaping what guitar music is right now. I think they're influencing a lot of people with what they're doing. But they are customizers. They change things on their guitars. Almost every time I speak to one of them, I may have sent them an instrument. 2 weeks later, how are you getting on with that guitar? Yeah, I've ripped all that stuff out and I've put all this stuff in there now. It's completely different to the guitar that I gave them.
Yeah.
So when we were doing this series, and when we were talking about which artists we want to work with and go to market with these guitars, Idols were probably the first band that we thought of, or the first artist that we thought of that would make the most sense to do this. And one of the good things about the job that I do, I think when you've worked with someone over a long period of time, you built this level of trust with them. So they're a really busy band. At the time they were on tour in Australia. They were going to Japan. Then they had a couple of days at home, and then they were over because they were up for a Grammy Award. Grammys is a big music industry award. It's like the Oscars for music, and it happens in LA once a year. So they were in LA at this time. This was 2 weeks out, so it was pretty short window to kind of get this done. I had a conversation with the band and their management, and they were like, yeah, this makes total sense. Let's do it. So we did. It was like a week later, I was on a plane out to LA, and we were filming a couple of days later. That was at the end of January, beginning of February, and then we launched the campaign a couple of weeks ago.
So I was going to ask about the filming as well. Was that in a Fender owned studio? Or did
Yes.
you get, so yeah, on the YouTube channel, it's quite consistent right there. Fender have amazing studios where you shoot and record stuff. And I was going to ask, what's a recording day like? Like when you arrive and like kind of what does it feel like when you're there? Is it quite exciting, I guess? Yeah.
It's always exciting, yeah, because I think the nature of working with artists is every one of them brings something different to the table. So, and we absolutely want to show that and shine. That's why we're partnering with them on these particular things. It's not always about what series we're launching on that day. Sometimes we'll just do a session because we believe in the artist and we want to platform them. But for this particular one, it was. So I think on that one, there's always kind of nerves around the crew as well. It's especially when you're working with someone like Idols, they're pretty spontaneous. They're quite lively. It was, how's this going to work in our studio? But they were absolute professionals, and they just nailed it super quick. I think they got what we were trying to do.
One take, couple of takes.
It's always a couple of takes. I think, it's like anything. You need a warm-up lap or two,
course,
right?
yeah.
But, I mean, they sounded great on the first take, but by the time we were really into it, I mean, I was hearing one of my favourite songs on loop. It was great.
Amazing. And it makes me think about the signature models as well, like different artists, to talk about that a bit more, because almost everyone in here, if you're like, a lot of your favorite artists, if you're listening, chances are, they might have had some connection with Fender, especially if they're a large artist. And one that caught my eye recently was the Jack White Triple Sonic. And if people haven't seen it, it's almost like a hybrid guitar between electric and acoustic, but so that's two things, but the triple comes in with like the overdriven electric switch. So how was working on that one? That sounded really cool.
I've got to be honest, I didn't actually work on that one. So the way the company is broken up is I work purely in Europe, and we have a team in Nashville. Jack White lives in Nashville, so they worked across that project. But having said that, I do know a bit about the guitar, and he's probably one of the most creative guys out there. Everything that he does, he's brilliant at marketing himself. He's got a look, and he's across every album. There's a real defined look. He seems to work everything in threes, which is, you know, I think that's on the back of it. Instead of having a signature on his guitar, he's got like the number three
the
on the
rule of
back.
three,
So,
yeah.
and that's, you know, the triple caster kind of fed into that.
Oh, yeah, of course. Yeah.
I did,
Because he owns Third Man Records as well.
Exactly.
Yeah, cool.
Exactly. So, but I mean, on other signatures that I've worked on more closely, Johnny Marr, who was the guitar player in the Smiths.
Yeah.
He was in the Smiths. That's probably what he's most known for. But he's had such a storied career. He's probably one of the most innovative guitar players that I've ever had the privilege to work with. He's still pushing boundaries and still writing the rule book. I think it's arguably one of the greatest guitar players of his generation. And I've worked with him on his signature refreshes that we've done not last year, I think it was the year before. Again, he themed signatures around colours for albums that he was doing. And we did a session with him on that, and it was about showcasing what his guitar does. I think because he's had such a long career, it's like 4 decades in now.
Yeah.
He's used multiple guitars across that time, but with his signature, he needed something that would cover all of those bases, and he worked diligently on that signature with my old boss, actually, at the time, because that signature's been out for maybe sort of 11 years now. And the idea was to have this guitar that could do everything that he needed to do. And it was over a long period. He'd picked up various different Fender Jaguars and built this perfect Jaguar out of it, and then got Fender to recreate that with certain modifications. Again, back to that modification thing, but modifications to make it a more stable guitar for what he was doing with it. And I think it's ended up being like one of the best-selling Jaguar models that we make.
So was that a long process of like prototyping? Okay, let's build the next version of it, build the next version. So there was like different versions along the way. Yeah.
Most signatures that we do go through that process. Sometimes it gets nailed a little quicker than others, but when you're working with an artist, artists are quite particular. They want, if they're going to put their name to something, they want it to be entirely representative of what they want it to be. So, and rightly so. And we believe that we should absolutely be doing that. It's really important to us that we nail that guitar so that that artist is 100% happy with it, And I guess the fruits of those labor are then when you see them creating new albums, new tunes that become so synonymous with their sound, with something that you've worked on. It's a real buzz.
That is really cool. Yeah. So it sounds like Johnny Marr had quite a lot of features in his guitar, and Jaguar, correct me if I'm wrong, has quite a different switches and things all over it.
Yeah.
So is that how he got so many possible combinations of tone in that? Yeah.
Yeah.
And so I was going to ask, is there what kind of things do artists normally ask for? So that sounds like quite an in-depth one. Is there anything? Is it to do with the type of wood, or you mentioned color? What kind of things are on artists' shopping lists really when they come to Fender to make their signature? What have you heard? Different things.
Totally depends on the artist and what they're after. Sometimes it's just as simple as a color change. Quite often, an artist will have a campaign in mind for their album, for their album cycle, and it might be a particular color that we work on. Or it can be really, really dialed in, a lot more focused on the features of the guitar and what they're sonically trying to do with it. Some artists favour lots of things. You mentioned Jack White there.
Yeah.
I mean, there's so much going on with that guitar. And then there's other guitarists that really want to narrow it all down, like Tom DeLonge from Blink-182. His guitar is literally one pickup down by the bridge and a volume pot, and that's it.
That's it.
And that's it. That's what he does, and he just needs that one sound. And again, it's just been one of the most popular Stratocasters that we've made, I think, because it's so simple. Idols do the same. Like one of the guitarists in Idols, he's the same. He doesn't want any extra bits and bobs on there. He's quite a physical player, so he tends to break things quite a lot on his guitars where he's throwing them around, and he's so focused on what he's doing.
Yeah.
So the less things that can go wrong on the guitar for him, the better. Okay. And that helps him do what he needs to do.
That's amazing. Yeah, I love hearing that. It's so cool, all the stories. And speaking of stories, I thought it might be fun to delve into your backstory a little bit, because obviously right now, sit at Fender, really interesting, fun job. And like you said, hard work as well. There's a lot that we see behind the scenes as well. You mentioned at the start of the podcast, but a lot of really interesting and fun things too. But I thought it'd be fun to rewind the clock because a lot of our students are between 16 and 25 years old. And I was wondering, kind of, what was it like for you at that age? Had you started to find your passion for music, or did that come later? What was it like for you back then?
That's a really good question. I think it's safe to say that I really didn't do well at school at all. I left school just before I was 16. I didn't particularly get on well at school. I made a lot of bad personal choices. I guess I was just a little bit directionless. The only thing that ever felt like an anchor for me was music. It was the only thing that made sense to me. It was the only thing that resonated with me. It was the only thing that kind of kept me grounded. And it's funny, I don't think I realized that at the time. It's, life is a bit of a journey.
Yeah.
And I'm still on mine, as we all are. But it was a tough time. As I say, school didn't really work out for me. And when I left, I didn't know what I wanted to do. My parents obviously wanted the best for me and suggested that I went and got either a job, like a 9-to-5 job, or that I went to college and did a business and finance course. And I took the latter because I felt like I was too young to kind of go and work in an office at 16 years of age. And I did this business and finance course and pretty quickly knew I'd made a mistake. It was just none of it. I was very bored there. It wasn't really speaking to me at all. So I persisted with it for a year, and then when it was coming around to the second year of going back, I just didn't go back. It just didn't feel like the right place for me to be. So I was kind of still there, I was still in flux. I didn't know what I wanted to do. In the meantime, I'm playing in bands, and I've got loads of friends that are picking up guitars. We didn't have anything like this. It was almost like choose your own adventure, make your own rules up. So that's what we were doing. But in the meantime, I had to get a job. I ended up working for a shipping company, costing out shipping jobs, and I did that for like 2 or 3 years. And in the meantime, some of my friends that I were growing up with, they decided they were going traveling. They packed a backpack and just went off around the world. And I was getting these emails from them. And I just started wondering, what the hell am I doing? I really don't want to be stuck here doing this forever. I think I need to go and join these guys and have a bit of a reset. And that's what I did. I literally, after I decided to go, I think 6 weeks later, I was on a plane. I used what money I'd saved up to just go and do this. I didn't have much money. I decided I was just going to work my way around the world and just see what happens. And in the meantime, try and work out in the back of my head what the hell I'm going to do with my life. I don't know if I came back from that with all the answers, but it definitely was a good reset. And it gave me a bit of a game plan. And when I got back, I did go back into finance, but it was for a media agency, and that's probably where the shift started happening.
Okay, cool. And then except that you get use some of those like business skills and things and media, that kind of thing, mixing with your passion and music kind of makes sense for sure.
Exactly.
Yeah, and then about that time, or any time in your career, a question I always think is quite fun to ask, and you can learn a lot from this, so hopefully, is what was the worst bit of advice you've ever had?
Get a safe job, 9-to-5 job, doing finance was probably the worst bit of advice I ever got. I don't think it was particular. God love my parents, but I don't think it was particularly thought out well. It didn't really speak to me. But I think it's probably pretty important if you're going to give the worst bit of advice, probably the best bit of advice I ever get. And it was during that trip while I was backpacking around the world. I couldn't tell you the name of this guy. I met him in Hawaii one night round a campfire, and everybody was chatting, just talking about what are you doing, why are you here, how long have you been away for, and everything else. And I explained that I just got fed up doing what I was doing. I needed to figure out what I was going to be doing, and it just felt like I needed to take myself out of the situation that I was in to think about what it was. And he really gave me a good piece of advice, and it's kind of stuck with me forever. And it was just people always say, follow your head, don't follow your heart. But he said, follow both. Because if they're both in unison, then it's pretty nailed on that you're on the right track with where you want to be going.
Yeah.
And I've kind of taken it on board, and it's worked pretty well for me so far.
The two don't need to be exclusive.
Exactly.
Yeah, I love that. That's brilliant. Yeah, that's an amazing bit of advice. God bless the hippie. I can imagine this
Indeed,
hippie-ish
yeah, he was
maybe in a
indeed, yeah.
Hawaiian shirt like this around the campfire. That sounds amazing.